Okay, I think we're set. It's turn my camera on and my nose immediately starts itching, for crying out loud. Man. Okay. That was embarrassing. But anyway. Oh, it's Monday night, March 2nd. We are into March. And I'm glad to have everybody along as everybody filters into the room. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. We are entering the final week of the 2026 Utah legislature. And there's a lot going on. We can talk about the budget. We can talk about the $31 billion state budget. We're going to talk about tax cuts. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff is on my list. Some legislative shenanigans that are happening. I need to do one little update and see what the heck is going on with this bill. Yep, it's still, anyways, we'll talk about that. And anything you want to talk about, your questions, your comments. We're going to talk about the Proposition 4 repeal. It looks like they have qualified for the ballot. And it's really kind of not surprising when you look at who signed the petitions to put it on the ballot. Spoiler alert, it's Republicans. Christy Flower on TikTok. Sup, Brian? Sup to you. I'm too old to be saying sup. Anyway, nice to have you on board. Good to have you here this evening. Dank on YouTube. Glad to have you here as well. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. Hope you're finding a way to stay dry. I did not. I had to take my dogs out on their evening walk, and there's just something about walking in the rain that is my border collie's favorite thing in the entire world. She loves it. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about walking in the rain. I think it might heighten the smells. I don't know. I'm just along for the ride and to get soaked, but you got to do that. So I'm glad that I have the opportunity to do that with her. A little bit of bad news right before I came online tonight, and it's making me sad personally. But Bruce Campbell, and if you're a nerd like I am, you have a very deep affection for Bruce Campbell. He announced that he's suffering from cancer that he put is treatable but not curable. And I swear to God, if 2026 is going to take Bruce Campbell from us, I might just lose it, because he's tremendous. He's so great. I was fortunate enough many, many years ago to meet him. He was on a book tour for his very first book. I booked him on a talk show that I was producing, getting guests for. The host had no clue who he was, but I said, trust me, this is going to be a great interview, and it was. And it was a little selfish. I got to sit down and chat with Bruce Campbell for about 20 minutes before he went on the air, and he was just delightful, just down to earth. You can tell that he just truly felt like a very lucky person to be in the he felt like it felt like he knew that his life was just a dream, and he was truly lucky for everything that he had. And I really appreciated that. And if you're not a fan of Bruce Campbell, this will make you a fan of Bruce Campbell. Go watch Bubba Ho-Tep, because he is goddamn magnificent in that movie. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, Andre on YouTube. Oh no, good Ash. Yeah. If we are without the boomstick, I am going to be really sad. But anyway, let's get into it tonight. I want to welcome everybody in. A special hello to Michael Clara, who I know is watching either right now or will be watching in the future and stealing my content to take wildly out of context to create some sort of conspiracy around it. So glad to have you watching as well, Michael. welcome in, but everybody else as well. And we've already got a number of questions and comments in the chat. And if you have something that you would like to talk about, let me know. Let's get right into it. Nathan Detroit says, how much of the anger at Judge John Torgerson, including possible House censure, is real versus how much is playing it up for getting people mad at the judiciary? I think that they're mad at him. I think that there's a lot of outrage at the comments that he made. And I'm going to pull up this article real fast just because I want to make sure that I am not mischaracterizing what he said. But that censure, I watched the committee hearing today, and they were pretty upset about it. The House Rules Committee, this censure of Judge Don Torgerson, dropped on, I believe, Saturday or Sunday. Pretty much came out of nowhere. And what they were mad about is that last year there was a 22-year-old man who pleaded guilty to possessing CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and Torgerson sentenced him to just 112 days in jail, which he had already served in 4 years probation. Torgerson twice mentioned the defendant's privilege, and he also said that 112 days in jail was a lot of jail time for someone your age who comes from some level of privilege. So I don't think that this, I don't think the motivation was entirely political theater, and I think that that's the genesis of your question, Nathan. But I do think that there's a level of outrage, and it just fits with the environment that we're in. You can't be screaming about the dangers of groomers and sexual predators all the time and not do something like this. So, they're going to censure him. It will pass. I don't think anybody's going to be voting against it. So anyway, question right off the bat. Good question, Nathan. I did watch that hearing today. Everybody was pretty professional. There was no slamming of their fists on the table or theatrics or histrionics. It was pretty subdued, but you can tell that they're pretty mad. So anyway, if you're just joining the show, my name is Brian Schott. I am an independent journalist. I've been covering Utah politics for more than 25 years, and I'm the publisher and managing editor of the independent news site Utah Political Watch. You can find all of my writing online at utahpolitics.news. Philly Beans on TikTok says, and we're going to talk now, let's jump right into the Prop 4 repeal, which looks like it has qualified for the ballot. It crossed last week, officially crossed today, but last week there were enough signatures to put it over the top and qualify it in the 26 Senate districts that it needed to hit signature thresholds. It hit the statewide threshold last week as well. But Philly Bean says Davis is only up 87 votes for the Prop 4 repeal. Do you think they'll have enough removals? He's actually talking about Senate District 7. That is the seat for Senate President Stuart Adams. It is the one that finally put them over the top to qualify for the ballot. There's the whole signature gathering or the signature removal effort. That's going to play a big role because I think they will only need to get one Senate district to fall below the 8% threshold, which is what they need. And right now that looks like Senate District 7. They are 87 signatures over the threshold for qualifying, and right now they're right at the minimum. There are 3 districts they have not qualified in: Senate District 9, Senate District 13, and Senate District 14. The one that they're the closest in is Senate District 13. That's Senator Nate Bluin's district. They need 656 more signatures there. They've already had over 300 removals in that district, and that's really impacted their ability to get over the hump. I don't know if they're going to get to 27 districts. I would think that Senate District 13, if they're going to get to 27 districts, that will be the district that gets them over, because Senate District 9 needs over 1,700 more signatures, and Senate District 14 needs over 1,950, almost 1,960 more verified signatures. So I don't think that they're going to get to either of those. So Senate District 13, keep an eye on that one as signatures continue to trickle in. I think a lot of the counties are finishing up with what they have verified. I know Davis is very close to the end, or maybe they've finished verifying whatever signatures they have, but the signature removal process can continue, and it's either 30 days from when the person signed the signature packet or 45 days from when their name is posted online, whichever is the first, for them to request to remove their signature from the petition. So this thing is not over yet. Right now, it does look like they will qualify for the ballot. And if I was a betting man, I think it's going to be really hard to find 87. You would think that they would need probably 150 more signature removals in Senate District 7 just to knock it off the ballot. Right now, they're 87 above the threshold, so they would need 88. And I would think that probably 120, 150 would actually be what they should be targeting. So they're fighting that battle out. At the same time, there's a court battle going on with the group behind the Prop 4 repeal. That's Utahns for Representative Government. They are filing suit because they're saying that Better Boundaries is violating the law by sending these signature removal kits to voters whose names are on the ballot. It has a prepaid postage on it, and they're saying that they're claiming that prepaid postage is violating state law because you're paying someone to remove their signature. I don't think that's their best argument. I think the best argument in their lawsuit is one, there is a group called Utahns for Responsive Government, and they were the organization that initially put Prop 4 on the ballot back in 2018, and they spun out into Better Boundaries. Utahns for Responsive Government is part of this signature rescission effort, but they're not registered with the state, and they've spent more than $750 on this campaign and state campaign finance laws require you to register with the state as soon as you spend $750. So I don't know if that to me seems like the stronger argument, instead of saying that paying for a stamp is buying someone's vote. Also, what they are claiming in this lawsuit is that these signature removal kits, they come with the voter's name already filled out. All they have to do is sign it, and then the envelope is pre-addressed to the clerk. And the state law says that the voter has to do this on their own. And by involving a third party who already filled out the information for the voter, that they're violating that. Now, I don't know how much that's, I don't know if that's going to hold sway in the court. I don't know if a judge is going to go for that. The campaign finance charge is the one that gets my attention more than any of them. So we'll have to watch that as it goes on. But right now, they have not only hit the statewide goal, that are 114% of the statewide goal for verified signatures, but they have also met the requirement of signatures from 8% of voters in 26 Senate districts. We have 29 Senate districts. You need to get signatures from 8% of voters in 26 of them. And so that's where things stand right now. We'll get more numbers tomorrow. I'll keep watching this throughout the week. The last day for clerks to verify signatures is a week from today, March 9th, because it has on working days. The deadline actually falls on the weekend. weekend, but they don't work on a weekend, so it now defaults to the following business day, which is Monday night. At the end of the day, whichever side ends up losing, whether the petition organizers don't qualify for the ballot or they do barely qualify for the ballot, this thing's going to end up in court. It's going to end up in court at some place because, there are allegations of misleading, that the signature gatherers misled voters into signing. There are allegations, there's an ongoing criminal investigation down in Utah County right now. So whatever happens, I think that it's a pretty good bet that this is going to end up in court. So anyway, that's where things stand right now. If you do have any questions, any comments, please leave them in the chat. Oh, Michael Clara, you are on. Nice to have you. Yeah, Michael Clara says, I love the insights you share about the political landscape. I try, but thank you so much for watching. I appreciate that. Let's see. Nathan Detroit has a question about Proposition 4. He says, does the repeal qualifying for the ballot have any effect in the meantime? For example, the anti-union bill repeal qualifying for the ballot, put it on hold for the time being. No. It just goes on the ballot, and you can expect that there's going to be an all-out war to get people an all-out war as we head up to Election Day, which is several months away. So this fight is only just starting, and you're going to see national groups. A national group has already come in and spent millions of dollars to get the signatures to put this on the ballot. There's going to be millions of dollars flowing into Utah to get Utahns to overturn it at the ballot should it qualify for the ballot. And I think there's a better chance than not that it will end up on November's ballot, simply because we're already here. We've already gotten we've already reached the number of signatures needed to put it on the ballot. And it's happened before that a signature removal effort has taken something that previously qualified for the ballot off. I've told this story before. Back in 2018, we did get 3 ballot initiatives qualified. Prop 4 was one of them, and the Medicaid expansion. A 4th ballot initiative called Count My Vote, which would have gotten rid of the caucus and convention system for nominating candidates. It would have taken Utah to a direct primaries. Candidates gather signatures. Every candidate gathers signatures, and you go to a direct primary. That initially got enough signatures to get on the ballot, but opponents launched a signature removal effort, and they were able to get people about a couple hundred signatures across 2 Senate districts, a couple hundred people to remove their signatures, and that stopped it from getting to the ballot. And so then they fell below. That one was taken to court. The organizers tried to argue that the signature removal part was illegal or shouldn't be allowed. The Utah Supreme Court didn't agree with that. So the signature removal process is legal. But it's happened before. I don't know if it's going to happen this time, simply because most of the people who sign this thing are Republicans. Like, I broke down the numbers. I work with a group. It's a company called L2, and they have a voter registration database, and they graciously have given me access to the Utah voter database, and I'm able to match probably about 85% of the people who signed the ballot initiative, who signed the petitions, with their records in the voter database. About 15% of people I can't match because their records are either private or redacted, and they can't be disclosed to the public. But about 85% consistently, and I try to check it almost every day, but I run it against the Utah voter database. About 85% is what I'm getting every single time. And when you break down those numbers based on when you break down the partisan affiliation, what I found is about 70% of the people, just over 70% of the people who sign this are Republicans. And that's why it's going to be really hard to get the signatures taken off that you need, because Republicans, the people who sign this are Republican Party stalwarts. And they probably don't want an independent commission drawing the lines. And that's why I think this is going to be hard. But yeah, I was looking at the numbers, and it's 70.45%. And you can see that story on my website, utahpolitics.news. I've got it all there, including an interactive map of where the signatures are. The next biggest group that signed this were nonpartisan, people who don't belong to any political party, almost 18%. That's a huge drop. We got 70% Republicans, and then the next largest group is nonpartisan, just under 18%. Democrats are about 6.5%. So you can target Democrats and nonpartisan voters to take their names off, but what you need to do is you need to somehow convince Republicans that this is a bad idea, or to remove their signatures. And that's why I think this signature removal effort might not be as fruitful, because I also looked at the people who have removed their signatures, and I've identified about 4,750 people here in the state so far who have withdrawn their signatures. And of those who have withdrawn their signatures, 21% are Republicans. The largest group are nonpartisan voters, 41%. Then second largest is Democrats at about 32%, and then Republicans are third with 21%. So again, the people you need to convince you're going to have to convince some Republicans to remove their names, and this is a Republican-led effort. This is an initiative of the Republican Party, and so, I don't know if the signature removal process is ultimately going to get them where they need to go. So anyway, we take a drink, and then we will check some of your comments. And please leave them in the chat. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you are thinking about tonight. Katie did it on YouTube. Hey there, Katie. Writes, any movement on Burton's ballot box restrictions? Yes, it passed the House today. It is in a Senate committee tomorrow. This thing is full steam ahead. Like they have made some tweaks to it. And as we talked about last time, it's no longer getting completely rid of vote by mail. It phases it out. So you're going to have to request to receive your ballot by the mail if this passes, and you're going to have to request to have the ability to return your ballot by mail. Otherwise, you'll have to bring it into the polling place or a ballot box, but I think you also have to get permission to drop it at a ballot box. Or you have to file, and you have to renew that every couple of years. It passed the House today. It is going to pass the Senate committee. I mean, this is an initiative. This is something that, at least the sense that I get, is that lawmakers want this. And so the Republican majority wants this. So pass the House today. It's in a Senate committee already tomorrow, and it will probably pass out of that and then make its way to the Senate floor and pass in the next couple of days. Tomorrow is a big day in the legislative calendar. Tomorrow is the very last day that the House can pass House bills. And it's the very last day that the Senate can pass Senate bills. So any House bills that do not make it out of the House are dead. And there are already hundreds of bills that are not going to make it out because they didn't get a committee hearing. And the legislative rule, it's I would say in most cases, there are exceptions, but in most cases, any bill that passes has to have a committee hearing in the House and a committee hearing in the Senate. And so tomorrow is the very last committee hearings where either house could consider bills from their own house. and then pass them through. So they have to, House bills tomorrow have to pass out of the House or they're dead. Senate bills have to pass out of the Senate tomorrow or they're dead. And so there's a lot of pieces of legislation that people have been looking at all year that just aren't going to go anywhere. The one that leaps to mind is Trevor Lee's bill on renaming Harvey Milk Boulevard in Salt Lake City after Charlie Kirk. That never made it out of House rules. And it's not on a committee agenda tomorrow, so that one's done. It's not going to pass. And there's a whole bunch of them. I'll probably have to dig into that and take a look at that. But that is the big day tomorrow. So that is the first big deadline. That's the last day. And then starting on Wednesday, there are committee hearings on Wednesday. And that's so the Senate can hold hearings on House bills and the House can hold hearings on Senate bills. But we are getting right down to it. We're getting to the end of this entire process. Michelle just said, I just joined, Michelle on TikTok, I just joined any news on the repeal of Prop 4. As we talked about earlier, they have reached the signatures to qualify for the ballot. As it stands right now, they have enough signatures, not only statewide, but in Senate districts to qualify for the ballot. So right now, they will be on the ballot. There is the signature removal effort that will be ongoing for the next couple of weeks. There's one district in particular, the one that just crossed today, that's Senate District 7, which is Senate President Stuart Adams' district. They have only crossed the threshold by 87 signatures. That's the surplus. I think the next lowest surplus, as I'm just trying to look at this real quick, let me do a sort here on my spreadsheet. The next lowest is Senate District 6 and Senate District 8, which have 169 signatures is the threshold. So it's going to come down to the battle of Senate District 7, which has qualified by 87 signatures, and Senate District 13, which still needs 656 signatures. That's where this battle is going to be fought. If they can qualify Senate District 13, which is Nate Bluen's district, that's the ball game, because there have been so many removals in Senate District 13 so far. I think I've tracked over around 300 removals in that district alone, and that has really impacted how close they get to the goal. And as I said, they're 656 signatures away. But if they somehow get those signatures that they need in Senate District 13, that's a ball game, because that just means that they're going to reach the goal. But I think it's going to all come down to Senate District 7. And right now there's an 87 signature cushion. So that's where we are right now. Let me look through some of the other comments. Not a lot of people commenting on Instagram tonight. You are welcome to chime in and let me know what you're thinking and talk about your questions. Nathan Detroit says, I'm trying to put together a new meta conspiracy theory for this one. How about it was all those Dems masquerading as Republicans that signed the petition on the last day to get those national groups to spend money for the referendum in November. That way the referendum will fail. Money wasted. Blue wave gives us 4D reps in Congress. Checkmate conservatives. That is some galaxy brain thinking right there. I applaud you for coming up with that one. It ticks off a number of boxes, because you've got all of the connections that you would need for an effective conspiracy theory. So I really think that you're onto something there. So that'll work. Let's see. Jessica Elise says Senate Bill 284 was to be heard in House political subdivisions today, but was sent back to rules. Chances it comes back. Well, let me refresh my memory and see what that one is, because I don't know all of these bills by. I don't know all of them by heart, but this is Senate Bill 284. So let me see what that one is. That's the local land use modifications. I'm not really up on that one, but it was, I think it was sent back to, I think it was sent back to rules because it has a fiscal note on it, and they're waiting to prioritize it because of the fiscal note. So, yeah, that one was, So I'm now looking at the status, and it says it was not considered, and so it was returned to rules. Nothing is completely dead until the end of the session. Now, even though it was not considered in the committee hearing, because now I see what happened here. It was on the agenda for the House Political Subdivisions Committee today, but it was not considered, meaning that they didn't get to it or they ran out of time, but it was not considered today, so it was sent back to rules. It could be lifted from rules. It has already passed the Senate, and they can make an exception. If this is something they really want to do, they can, change the rules and lift it from rules and bring it directly to the House floor. That happens. It's not frequent, but it does happen. I'm not 100% up to date on exactly what they're trying to do with this bill, but this is a Lincoln Fillmore bill, and it passed. Let me see. It passed the Senate, 21 votes. Got through the Senate Economic Development and Workforce Services. What it's going to come down to is how mad, it's going to come down to whether or not the House is mad at the Senate or the Senate is mad at the House for moving slowly. And that always happens towards the end of the session. That always happens. That people get upset that the Senate is moving too slowly or the House is moving too slowly, and then they'll slow down, and then you'll see the House like saunter, or they'll adjourn early because they're mad at the Senate, or vice versa. That always happens right around the end of the session. So I think it's going to probably come down to just how mad the House is at the Senate, whether they try to bring that one up or not. Sirald66 on YouTube, and I want to talk a little bit about this. He says, Representative Trevor Lee slipped the core of what was rejected in HB 88 into HB 386, which passed to the Senate. My Senator Plum is voting against it. I've been watching this one all day because it's not over to the Senate yet. It passed the House. It passed the House 39-33. Which is not a very big margin. And if you don't know what happened, this happened, I believe, on Friday evening. Senate Bill 386 is a bill by Representative Lisa Shepard. It's called Immigration Amendments. And what Trevor Lee did was, what Representative Lee did is he sponsored or offered a substitute that took the core of what was in HB 88, which was his anti-immigrant bill that denied public services for people who were in the country unlawfully. You would have to verify citizenship before people could receive public benefits. And he sponsored or offered a substitute to put that part of the bill into House Bill 386. And it passed out of the House. But if you look at the status, it says on the 27th at 4:18 p.m., House passed third reading, and then it has the vote. But then right after that, at the same timestamp, it says held House docket clerk. This thing has not gone over to the Senate yet. And I don't know what they're doing with it. I was expecting all day for the House to reconsider their action on it, which they could do because they still have the bill. It's not to the Senate. It passed the House. It got enough votes to pass the House, but they have not sent it over to the Senate yet, at least according to this. And if you listen to the introduction of bills in the Senate, they have not introduced the bill into the Senate. And if they don't send it over to the Senate by the end of the day tomorrow, then the bill's dead. And I've got a couple of theories. I'm wondering if they're waiting for a fiscal note on what this does, because what Representative Lee did is he completely changed this bill. And so I don't know if they're waiting for a fiscal note, but that's never stopped a bill before in the past. Or the other theory that I have is that they're waiting to reconsider their action. And they can do that if someone who voted on the prevailing side, so since this bill passed, If you get a legislator who voted yes, they can move to reconsider their action and do something different. And I don't know if that's what they're trying to do, but there is certainly some sort of game playing going on with this bill because it's still sitting in the House. It is not over to the Senate. It has not been sent over there, even though it passed. And I can't quite figure out what they're trying to do with it. But that's where we are. Meg Cliffy on Instagram, I'm waiting for the second part of your message. You said Senator Cullimore responded to me and said, and then I'm waiting for what else you said, and I'm hoping you have some more insight on this. But that's what happened. I did want to talk about some other legislative shenanigans that happened today that I don't know if you were aware of, but this was interesting to see. House Bill 174, which makes permanent the hormone therapy for transgender youth. It makes permanent the ban. Right now it was a moratorium, and then they had a study. The state did a study about studying the effects of hormone therapy on transgender youth, and the study basically came out, and I'm aggressively paraphrasing here, but the study said it's not that bad. The study came back and said that it's more benefit than harm to allow youth to have hormone therapy. But the House decided that they weren't going to listen to their own experts. Meg Cliffy says, Senator Cullimore responded to me and said, don't worry about HB 386. He isn't planning to support it, nor is it actively moving through the legislative process right now. Like I said, it is held in the House. I don't know why it's held in the House, because if you look at who voted for it, Speaker Schultz voted for it. You had Representative Perucci, who is the majority whip, voted for it. Jordan Tusher, who is the House Rules Chair, voted for it. It's got some powerful support. I don't know why it's being held or who agreed to hold it in the House. Unless the Senate in no uncertain terms, we are not passing that bill. So that's one of the legislative games that they were playing. Thank you for the information, Meg. I appreciate that. But let's talk about this legislative shenanigan that I was talking about earlier. So this is HB 174, and what this does is it makes permanent the state's ban on hormone therapy for transgender youth. And what happened was the bill did pass the House. It passed the House. Oh, wait. Hang on a moment. I'm looking at it right here. It passed the House. Sorry, I'm not phrasing this correctly. It passed the House, it passed the Senate, but the Senate made some changes, so it came back to the House, and the House had to concur with the Senate's changes. And the House concurred with the Senate changes by a vote of 48 to 16. That happened this morning at about 10:46 a.m. In the afternoon, the sponsor, Representative Rex Shipp, gets up and asks to reconsider their actions. And the reason why he wanted to reconsider their actions is because if they could get to 50 yes votes, the bill would take effect immediately. It has an immediate effective date. If they can get 2/3 in both houses, they got 2/3 in the Senate. But when they concurred with the Senate's changes, they only got 48 votes and they needed 50. So they brought it back up, and they had twisted enough arms to get it to pass by a count of 53 to 15. And so now when Governor Cox signs it, it goes into effect immediately. And that's just one of the games that they play. This was some legislative shenanigans. It initially did not pass with enough support to go into effect immediately. They realized that. They brought it back, twist some arms during the lunchtime, or tried to get a few people to, and I haven't broken down to see if who actually changed their vote or if anyone changed their vote, because there were a number of people who missed the vote last time. 11 people did not vote the first time around, and then it was only 7, so that would be more than enough to get them through. But they brought it back so they could get enough votes to go into effect immediately. That's just one of the fun little games that they play. So that's what I mean when I talk about shenanigans. Christy Flower on TikTok says, so does this mean the theory that Trevor Lee is being shut out still alive? Yes. He did get one bill, as I said earlier, he got one bill out of the House into the Senate where it was immediately shut down by a Senate committee. They tabled it. It was his election bill because he added some conspiracy theorist stuff in there to a pretty innocuous bill about allowing people when they get their hunting and fishing license. But at the end of the day tomorrow, if this bill, and it's not even his bill, so this bill is actually sponsored by Lisa Shepard. It's not his bill. So at the end of the day tomorrow, it's going to look like Trevor Lee did not get a single piece of legislation passed. Maybe I'll have to look into that. Let me look real fast. But it seems like the last I checked, and I could be wrong, and I'm probably wrong. But at least the big pieces of legislation that he was pushing this session, none of them has passed. And let's see. We do have, HB 88 is circled in the House. He had two bills killed in committee. HB 173 has disabled parking permit amendments held in a House committee. Public funds and political activities amendments, that was introduced in the House, but I think it's still sitting in rules. His Charlie Kirk bill, that one is still sitting in rules. His human trafficking bill, HB 200, still sitting in rules. Immigrant driving amendments, that one did get the fiscal note from, but right now it is also sitting in House rules. Solar energy amendments, HB 428, that was returned to rules. His immigrant amendments, 571, that was introduced, but that one is sitting in rules. So I'm guessing that at the end of the day tomorrow, Representative Trevor Lee will be completely shut out on legislation this session, which is kind of hilarious because one of the things that he likes to do is clown on Senator Nate Bluin for not getting anything passed. He didn't get anything passed this session. And I'm not quite sure why that happened. I have a couple of theories. One, either he's being punished for his antics and House leadership and the Senate leadership is tired of answering for his antics, or two, they were trying to protect him from himself with an upcoming election. So anyway, let's see. What else is on my list here? The bill from Representative Lisa Shepard to create a Secretary of State. That one died in a committee today. That one got rejected. They were trying to take the election administration away from the lieutenant governor and give it to a Secretary of State. They have tried something like this over the past couple of years. They've tried a number of things. I remember it first was broached, I think back in 2023 or 2024 by Representative Ryan Wilcox. He wanted to just create an elections office that had an appointed elections director, completely take it away from the lieutenant governor. He backed off of that bill because Governor Spencer Cox asked him to. And I'm guessing Governor Spencer Cox asked them to back off this bill as well because it's pretty punitive towards Lieutenant Governor Henderson, who you do have to give props to because she got sued by the federal government last week. As you know, and I don't think we've talked about it here on the live stream, but it was well reported that the Department of Justice has demanded that Utah turn over the full unredacted voter list in the state. That includes full names, addresses, date of birth, in some cases, your driver's license number or part of your social security number. And Henderson has said, state law says I can't do that. I can give you what's public, but I can't give you the whole thing. And in response, the Justice Department filed suit last week to try to pry it loose. They are claiming that the Civil Rights Act says that when the Attorney General asks to see this election related materials, that the states have to turn it over. That is a weird interpretation of that bill, of that law, because people I've seen who are experts on this say they're misapplying it. And this is just part of a scheme by the Trump administration, or the effort by the Trump administration to take over administration of elections, which Constitution says belongs to the states. The states are in charge of the elections. So you do have to give her some props for that. It takes. I think the Justice Department has sued over 30 states and Washington D.C. right now. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Let's go down and look at some of the other comments that we have here. Let's see. Katie did it. 124 says, is the expansion of the prison connected to ICE money? I haven't seen any federal connection to that. It is interesting that they're spending so much to expand the prison. That's quite a bit of money that they have put forward on that. Let me pull up that budget. This is the extra spending that they approved that made it into HB 3, which is the current fiscal year, or no, next fiscal year supplemental appropriations. And they did that. They approved that in the Executive Appropriations Committee last week, and then that bill came out yesterday as everybody was starting to look at that. But let me pull up. I'm in the wrong folder. Let me see. It would be this piece right here. Yeah, they are spending quite a bit of money to expand the prison capacity. They're opening what they call the Bear 3 building, and they are putting $3.5 million of ongoing money towards that, which is a pretty significant chunk of change. I haven't gone back and looked at the RFA for that, but I'm sure that there's some justification in that. They also are putting $1.4 million into homelessness offender supervision amendments. That's under corrections. There's a number of other homeless spending that's pretty significant. Let me see if I can find that here. You learn to read these things fairly fast. Here it is. Under workforce services, they're putting $2.49 million of ongoing money and $9.4 million in one-time money towards emergency shelter and housing for homelessness. They have a thing called high utilizers in the criminal justice system. They're putting $4.6 million of ongoing money and $2.6 million of one-time money towards that. Mental and behavioral health treatment for homelessness, $1 million in ongoing money and $7.8 million in one-time money. And then their phase 2 investments for homelessness is $9.4 million in ongoing money and $5 million in one-time money. So that is a significant investment in addressing homelessness. One of the things that you're going to want to look for, and we're probably going to see the budget probably Wednesday or Thursday, is when they're going to put out all of the spending. And that's when you're going to see the pet projects from lawmakers get included into those things. That's when they fund bills. And we won't know the full amount until the bills that they had funded pass on the last night. They have a certain number of bills that they have put money for that won't pass. They won't get through the session, but it's a sprint towards the end. But when we see the budget, and I'm expecting it to either come out Wednesday or Thursday, probably Thursday, and it's quite the scene up at the Capitol at the Executive Appropriations Committee. You have all the lobbyists and media members just hovering like vultures over this table, waiting for them to bring out the hard copy or post it online, and then everybody starts going through to see if their pet projects, if the things that they pushed for got funded, and which bills got funded. So we'll have to watch that, and I'll try to break that down for you as we get close to that. Gabriel on YouTube says, what's the deal with tax cuts this year? Haven't they been complaining about a tight budget? Kinda. They actually have more money than they thought they did. And let me pull up the numbers here. When the revenue estimates came in earlier this year, it was $228 million more than what they expected. So the revenue estimates were slightly higher than what they were expecting. That's $136 million in one-time revenue and $92 million in ongoing revenue. In the income tax fund, now remember, the income tax fund can only be spent on public education, higher education, and some social services for children and individuals with disabilities. That's specific social services. And that's where your tax cut is going to come from. And in that fund, they estimated that they had $38 million more in ongoing revenue than what they had thought for, and then $99 million in one-time revenue. And one-time is stuff they use for buildings. They don't like to fund ongoing programs with one-time money because then they have to try to find the money again next year. Well, in SB 60, which was passed by the House Revenue and Taxation Committee, so it'll be on the House floor in the next couple of days, meaning it is going to pass. That bill cuts the income tax from 4.5% to 4.45%. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, right? A 0.05% reduction in the income tax. Well, what is that going to cost us? If you look at the fiscal note says that is going to cost $101 million in ongoing money every year. Where does that money come from? That money comes from the income tax fund, which goes to fund what? Public and higher education and some social services. So what they're doing with this tax cut is they're going to take future revenue that could be going into that fund for schools, for higher education, for social services, and they're putting it into a tax cut. And not only that, but they have done that for the past few years. They've cut taxes. Pull up my numbers here, because if you want to know who's going to be getting that, no surprise, spoiler alert, that money is going to be going to the top income earners in Utah. So you got $101 million that's going to be coming. Sorry, my glasses fell off. $101 million that's going to be coming out of that fund for tax cuts. Actually, what's going to happen is from the current fiscal year, the 2026 fiscal year, they're going to be taking $1.3 million in one-time money out, and that's just going to backfill some of the tax cuts there. Next year, it's $101 million of ongoing money and $22 million of one-time money to pay for these tax cuts. And then every year after that, it's $101 million. So who's going to get that money? Who's going to get that money? Well, the top 1% are going to get most of that money. How much are you going to get from this tax cut? Voices for Utah Children, who's done some pretty great work on this. So I'm going to give them a shout out on their analysis. If you are in the top 1% of income earners, which is making $835,000 or more, your tax cut's going to be about $1,200 a year. $1,200. It's not bad. If you're in the top 2 to 5%, making anywhere from $333,000 to $835,000, your tax cut is $194 a year. So you drop, that's a pretty significant drop from $1,200 a year to $194 a year. If your income is between $157,000 and $333,000, you'll be seeing about $96 a year. If you're in the upper mid 20%, that's, your salary somewhere between $157,000 and $102,000, somewhere in that range. $57 a year is how much your tax cut will be. If you're in the middle 20%, you're making somewhere between $102,000 and $63,000 a year. That's the middle 20%. Your tax cut will be $36 a year from this 0.05%. Lower mid 20%, $63,000 to $34,000, you're going to be making about $24 a year. And if you're in the bottom 20%, that's up to $34,000. You'll be getting $13 a year from this tax cut, if you get anything at all, because Utah does it, because none of these tax cuts that they've passed over the past 5 years have, they're non-refundable. They have an earned income tax credit, but it's non-refundable, meaning that you won't get anything back. You won't pay any taxes, but you won't get anything back. Now, they have cut income taxes by $1.4 billion over the past 5 years. So how much will each one of these income levels make, or how much of a tax break are they seeing from these tax cuts over the last 4 years? And remember, to pay for these tax cuts, they're taking future revenues out of the income tax fund that could go to public education, higher education, or some social services. If you are in the top 1%, including this year's tax cut, okay, if this year's tax cut passes, over the cumulative amount your taxes have dropped over the past, because of the past 5 years of tax cuts, is over $19,000 a year. That's how much your state income tax has dropped because of these tax cuts. That's the top 1%. If you're in the top 2 to 5%, again, that's $835,000 to $333,000 of income. Your total annual savings from these 5 rounds of tax cuts, about $2,000. So the top 1%, over $19,000. The next 2 to 5%, $2,000. If you are in the top 6 to 20%, that is you're earning somewhere between $333,000 and $157,000. Your cumulative savings, your total annual savings from these 5 tax cuts per year is $912. And it just keeps dropping from there. The upper mid 20%, that's $157,000 to $102,000. Your total annual tax bill dropped by $562 because of these 5 rounds of tax cuts. Middle 20%, $63,000 to $102,000 a year. Your total cumulative tax cut per year is $347. Lower to mid 20%, if you're making $63,000 to $34,000, your total tax bill has dropped by $222 annually. And the low income, bottom 20% up to $34,000, the total annual savings for that group over these past 5 rounds of tax cuts is $117. So they are taking future revenues. This money comes out of the income tax fund. It's not what's there, it's what's going to be there. And that's how they pay for these tax cuts. This is money that could have been going to public schools. $1.4 billion every year is what they've taken out to give the top 1% a $20,000 a year tax cut. That's how it's paid for. They don't like when people point this out. They get really upset when they point it out. I was watching the committee hearing today when Representative Steve Ellison, who is the House sponsor of the tax cut bill, and he's a nice guy. He's very pleasant. But he said, this is the bill that's going to benefit everybody in Utah. Sure, but it's really going to benefit people who make a lot of money, because they're going to see their taxes drop significantly again. While everyone else, I don't know where you are, but a couple bucks a month is what everyone else is going to get from this at the middle to lower end of the income scale. May Cliffy says, sorry, my internet has been spotty. What is the progress of the income tax bill? Did it pass? I've been so sad to see so many budget cuts to our public education funds. It hasn't passed yet. It did pass out of a House committee today. It's already passed through the Senate. It's going to pass. They've already set aside the $101 million it's going to cost to pay for this additional tax cut. But because of the tax cuts we've had over the past 4 years, and now this will be the 5th year in a row, $1.4 billion less in ongoing annual revenue that could again go to public education, higher education, and some social services. So That's what it is. Dot Kirsten says, glasses cute AF. I appreciate that. They're pair eyewear. I actually knocked these off earlier, but I can switch them out. I think I've got another one here. I've got my blue ones here. So like, if I feel like it, I can pop the blue ones on. See, I'm going to stick with the plaid for now. Got my pirate ones. I'll probably have to switch to the pirate ones in the next couple of days because that's where I'll be feeling. Let's look and see. What else do we have here? Nathan Detroit, if we combine that income tax cut with a $100 Amazon gift card for each teacher, it just about evens out. Oh, yeah, sure. You know, as I said, they get really upset. I remember specifically when I first wrote about this, when they were cutting taxes, like they had a really big tax cut a couple of years ago. I think they were doing it by 1%. No, not 1%, by it was a couple tenths of a percent. It was much larger than the one we've done the past couple of years. But I pointed out that this would be going to the upper income. And then Representative Brady Brammer, now Senator Brady Brammer, but then Representative Brady Brammer got really upset on the House floor and basically scolded everyone for pointing that out because, you know, the people who make a lot of money contribute a lot and they deserve this tax cut. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but that was the gist of his argument. Because the way Utah's Constitution is set up, income taxes, personal and corporate income taxes, can only be used to pay for public education, higher education, and some social services. That's what, when you hear lawmakers talking about the earmark, that's the earmark. That's the constitutional earmark. And they have been trying to figure out a way to get around that for years. Amendment A, which they were going to put on the ballot in 2024, would have opened up the earmark. What it would have done is it would have allowed them to raid this income tax fund to use it for other parts of the budget, because everything else in the budget has to be paid for out of the general fund, which is sales taxes, other taxes, or the transportation fund. That's what it can be used for, and that's where the money comes from. And so it really ties their hands when they want a budget. Utah's the only state that does it like this. Everyone else has like one pot of money and they can use it wherever they want. Here we have one dedicated pot of money and then another pot of money. And they've been trying to figure out a way to get around this. And in 2024, in 2023, they had approved a proposed constitutional amendment. And they said they were going to negotiate with the Utah Education Association in 2024 to change some language of the amendment, because it was very vague. It said that they could use the money in the income tax fund after public education was sufficiently funded, but there were no guidelines on what sufficiently funded meant. It was really vague. And the UEA didn't like that language. But 2024 rolls around. Lawmakers said they were going to work with the UEA to tweak the language, and it never happened. They never really met with the UEA. So the 2024 session ends. There's no changes to this constitutional amendment. And then the UEA came out and opposed it. The UEA came out and said, we are going to oppose this constitutional amendment. We don't want it. And oh, did that upset. That's why they ran the union busting bill in 2025 to get rid of public employee unions. It was targeted at the Utah Education Association for opposing this constitutional amendment. They wanted to punish them, but they couldn't just single out the teachers. So they had to rope in all of the public employees. That was the genesis of this bill. They were trying to punish the teachers for opposing that constitutional amendment. But lawmakers have been trying to figure out a way to get around this earmark for years, because we've got people moving into the state. You know, our economy's doing well, so our surpluses are always going to be in the income tax fund. They've been in the income tax fund in recent years, and that's what they used to pay for the tax cuts. Gabriel is asking about HB 501. Let me see which one that one is. Water modifications by Bridger Bolinder. He says that one has been sitting in the Senate Government Operations and Political Subdivisions Committee. Yeah, they're waiting to put it on an agenda. It's been assigned to that committee, and they just haven't put it on an agenda yet. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. That's a question from also Pyrogaster on YouTube, who says, I'm a bit late to the stream. What's the status of HB 501, the water system funding bill? They're waiting to have a Senate hearing on it. I suspect they might have on Wednesday. That's the last committee hearing, or they'll just bring it straight to the Senate floor. Again, depending on what the negotiations are, if they have the money for it. Meg Cliffy on Instagram says, so it's not worth it to contact our House reps at this point and ask them to vote no. Everybody's on board. This is going to happen. There's going to be another round of tax cuts this year. They're going to do it. Because Senate President Stuart Adams loves to, he makes the same stupid, lame joke every year. Tax cuts again and again and again and again and again. UT Bullmoose says, I just got notified by Tusher HB 600 won't be leaving the Rules Committee. HB 600 is, let me look that one up because I'm not sure what it is. That's the Utah Supreme Court referendum amendment. That's the Matt McPherson bill that would allow people to do a referendum and overturn a Supreme Court decision. Yeah, I'm not surprised that's not coming out of Rules. One, it came out in this so late in the session, like it was just introduced last week when we're right at the end of things. So these bills are getting out, but they're not going anywhere. Like Senator Nate Bluin had a bill that came out today that reversed the state's ban on a public entity entering into a contract with a company that has a boycott against the state of Israel, or an economic boycott. He's trying to return that. So that's also a dead bill. Yeah. So we're right at the end of this. And like I said, and I know people are just joining late, but tomorrow's a big day. Tomorrow is a big day on the schedule. Cyrald66 on YouTube says HB 600 sounds a bit like mob rule. And it also, how is that not an unconstitutional bill? How is that not an unconstitutional bill? Because it's a separation of powers issue. Because it would allow legislators to just whip up an initiative, a referendum, to get a Supreme Court thing overset, or get a Supreme Court ruling overturned. It's a blatantly unconstitutional bill. When I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness. But as I said, and as we're going to wrap up here, because I've been talking for more than an hour, and my voice is probably going to be done, but tomorrow's a big day up at the legislature, because it is the last day that the House can work on Senate bills, and it is the last day that the last day the House can work on House bills, and the last day the Senate can work on Senate bills. So if there is a House bill that has not passed out of the House by the end of the day tomorrow, by the time the gavel falls in the House, that bill is dead. It's done. If there is a Senate bill that has not passed out of the Senate by the time the gavel falls tomorrow evening, it is dead, because they cannot move it through session. Starting on Wednesday, the Senate can only work on House bills. The House can only work on Senate bills. The Senate controls the House calendar. They decide which bills come up. There'll be a lot of sauntering, because they're going to get together and negotiate and pass over lists of which bills they want. The Senate will send over a list of which bills they want the House to which bills they want the House to consider, and the House will send over a list of which bills they want the Senate to consider. And that's the way it will continue all the way until Sine Die on Friday night. And UT Bull Moose brings up something we talked about earlier. It appears that Representative Trevor Lee is going to get shut out this session. He did get one bill out of the House, but it was tabled by a Senate committee, and all of his other bills are not going anywhere. They will be dead as of the end of the session tomorrow. And then we go right into election season because the candidate filing for the federal candidate filing starts on Monday the 9th, a week from today. I'm fascinated for a couple of things. I'm fascinated to watch, one, which Republican is going to run in which district. We already know that Blake Moore is going to run in District 2. Does Mike Kennedy decide to move over to the new District 4? Because I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm growing increasingly convinced that Representative Burgess Owens will retire. Will decide not to run again. Because these four Republicans we have, if they are going to run in that new 1st congressional district, all four of them will get their clocks cleaned. I'm not saying that a Republican cannot win that district. A Republican absolutely could win the new 1st congressional district under the map that was put in place by Judge Gibson, the Democratic-leaning district in Salt Lake County, because it is still a plurality Republican district. Republicans make up 35% of the voters there. Independents make up 33%, Democrats 25%. A Republican absolutely could win that seat. But it has to be the right kind of Republican. None of the current 4 Republicans we have in the Utah House or in the U.S. House of Representatives right now can win that seat. They would get crushed because they are candidates who are designed for deep red seats. They are candidates who can win a Republican primary in a deep red seat. I don't think that they could win a competitive seat in Salt Lake County. I don't think any of them can. So then what happens? Blake Moore is already running in District 2, which is up north. That leaves 2 seats for 3 members of Congress. Celeste Malloy is both Celeste Malloy and Mike Kennedy live in District 3. Mike Kennedy lives in Alpine. Celeste Malloy lives in Cedar City. That's a huge district. It is massive. But one of them, one of them is going to have to move into District 4. Somebody's going to have to run in District 4. Somebody's going to have to run in District 1. And that's why I think if I were a betting man, I would say that Burgess Owens retires, decides not to run again. Maybe he does. Maybe he tries to run in District 4, but that leaves Kennedy and Malloy in the same districts, and they would have to face off in a primary. The Queen on TikTok says, do they have to live in the district they represent? No, they don't. And Utah we love to elect people who don't live in the district that they represent. Saral brings up a very interesting point. SB 242 in the House committee this morning. This is the omnibus transportation bill. Those things usually are just a formality, but it got a tie vote in the House in a House committee this morning, 4-4, meaning it's dead. I don't know if they're going to try to bring it back. I don't know if they're furiously negotiating behind it, but this is like the big transportation bill. And it died, which is surprising. So what do they do now with that? They might have to do something in a special session. And they've already said that we're probably going to have a special session because one of the things they want to do in the 2026 election is they want to put a proposed constitutional amendment on the ballot that would allow the legislature to override ballot initiatives passed by the voters, which is what they did with it. It would basically keep the Utah Supreme Court from stopping them from repealing ballot initiatives from the voters. It's what they tried to do with Amendment D. And unless we see this bill pop up tomorrow and they rush it through one of the houses, which they obviously could, But unless we see it pop up tomorrow, we're going to have to wait for a special session. And Senate President Stuart Adams has already said it might be in a special session, which would be interesting to do a special session just specifically to put that on the ballot. But what they did, they did that in 2024 because they called the emergency session in August to put that constitutional amendment on the ballot after the Utah Supreme Court said you can't do what you did. Vote for Stephen Burt, who is running for Congress. I think you're in the 3rd congressional district. He says, but people should live in the district they represent. It's absurd when they don't. I think that I agree with you, but I think that ship has sailed. There's nothing in law that says you have to do it. And that ship sailed many, many years ago with Representative Jason Chaffetz. Oh, I keep getting that wrong, Stephen. I keep thinking he's going to run in District 3, but he's running in District 4. I will try to remember that. It's late. It's been a long day. Nathan Detroit says, digging into the deep lore, is there any Republican state legislative member you could see being competitive in CD1? I know who wants to run for it, and I'm pretty sure they're going to run for it. Dan McKay is absolutely sweaty to run for Congress. I mean, he has been hinting about running for Congress for years. I don't know if he could win it. I think it'd be very difficult for him, but I wonder if he tries. I think it would have to be a moderate, and I don't know if there's anybody in the legislature right now who's moderate enough. It would have to be a moderate with lots of name recognition or lots of money. I'll tell you who I think, I'll tell you who I think would have a really good shot at winning it. I think Thomas Wright would have a really good shot. I don't know if he lives in District 1, but I think he would have a really good shot at winning that. He's charismatic. He's got money. I mean, he ran for governor a couple of years ago. It didn't really work out for him, but I think if you want a Republican who has a chance at winning it, I think he might win. I think you might see Brad Bonham, who is the current Republican National Committeeman. He's been making some really strange moves that have got popped up on my radar, and I wonder if he might be thinking about doing something like that. Whoever it is going to be, the Republicans are going to get behind him, and there's going to be a lot of money from the Republicans to prop them up, to help them, to help try to push them over the top. Gabriel brings up Representative Ray Ward. I don't think he's wired to run for Congress. I think he'd be good. But whether he would get the support of the Republican Party is another issue, because Republican base voters, especially in Davis County, again, because he lives in Davis County, but Republican base voters do not like him. And I really think that the way that this district is drawn, they're going to have to live there. I know they don't have to, but I think they're going to have to live there, simply because it is Salt Lake County. And I think Salt Lake County voters, because whoever wins this seat is going to have to put together a coalition across the aisle. A Democrat is going to have to get Republicans to vote for them. Republicans are going to have to get independents and possibly some Democrats to vote for them. And so you're not going to be able to get someone who lives outside of the district. I think there's going to be a focus, because it has been so long that Salt Lake County has been clamoring for this seat, and this may be the only time they ever get a seat like this, that they're going to have to live in the district. Dot on YouTube says, I grew up in Davis County. I never knew so much about it until I moved out of state. Yeah, they're getting a lot of attention right now. Nathan Detroit says, I know they're not in the state legislature, but maybe someone like Amy Winder Newton or Michelle Kaufusi. Well, Michelle Kaufusi is down in Utah County, and I think whoever wins the nomination is going to have to be in Salt Lake County. Amy Winder Newton is interesting. I know she's got the ambition. She did run for governor. I don't know if They have the app. The problem is, for the first time in a long time, the Republican's going to have to work for it. And you're going to have to find a Republican who's built like that. They can't just win, a party nomination and then cruise to the win. Whoever the Republican candidate is, because this is a Democrat favored district, it's not solid blue, but it's Democrat favored. Whoever wins this, whoever the Republican nominee is, they're going to have to work for it. So you're going to have to find somebody who is wired in that way, who's willing to work for it and has the personal resources to put towards it. Plus, they're going to have to be charismatic. This is a world that Republicans in Utah are not used to. They're not used to having to work for something like this, which is part of the reason why I suspect that they're so mad. Because in the past, all you'd have to do is win the party nomination and then it was over with. But now, not only are they going to have to work for it, but the National Party's going to have to put some resources towards it to try and hang on to this seat. And if the election is as close as some people think it's going to be, control of the House of Representatives could come down to this one seat in Utah, which would be remarkable. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me tonight. My voice is starting to crack a little bit. It's almost been an hour and a half here. I've really enjoyed the time with you guys. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening over the next couple of days. We will be doing this again this week. I will be coming on here for a live stream again sometime this week, probably. I would suspect maybe Wednesday and then probably Thursday and possibly even Friday as we head towards the end of it, because there's going to be so much to talk about and things are going to be moving incredibly fast. If you want to know when these live streams are going to happen, go to my website, utahpolitics.news, sign up for my newsletter. It's free. I send out an email blast a couple of hours before I do the live stream, so you'll know when I'll be doing it. And it's got links to all the social channels. That's the easiest way to do that. If you want to read the rest of my reporting, you can do that as well there. I'm an independent journalist. That website is journalist owned, journalist operated. I own it. I run it. I'm responsible for everything you see on that website. I'm responsible for everything on the social channels. I am supported 100% by readers and viewers. But you can sign up for my newsletter for free. You'll know when I'll be doing these live streams. If you appreciate what I do, there's a tip jar on my website. You can throw me a couple of bucks, or you can become a subscriber and get some free stuff. There are some subscriber-only articles that I put out a couple of times a week. And you can join our Discord. It's been a little bit quiet. I've been so busy I haven't even had a chance to really do anything. But you can join the Discord, which I think is going to become much more interesting as we get towards the election. So you can do that at my website. It's utahpolitics.news. Head over there. Take it just a couple of minutes. If you want to become a subscriber, it's $5 a month. I did the math. It's 16 cents a day. And you support what I do, and you get a lot of knowledge. You get a lot of reporting. I write several articles a day, or at least I try to during the legislative session, just to keep you abreast of what's happening. Anyway, thank you so much for your attention tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Again, if you want to know the next time we do it, it's probably going to be later this week. I suspect Wednesday will be the next one. Sign up for my newsletter, utahpolitics.news. And you'll find out when we're going to be doing that. But until then, be good to each other. Stay safe. Try not to let the news depress you too much. And we will talk to you again soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.